It's 2007 and Nissan launches the Qashqai. This compact crossover, instead of a minivan or a station wagon, was such a success that 15 years later we have 40-50 models in this segment in Europe alone. Toyota took a swing at the segment 10 years after the Qashqai with the CHR, whose sales in Europe have recently been comparable to those of the Nissan. Emboldened by this success, Toyota's marketing gurus decided to follow suit and gave us this. Behold the Toyota Corolla Cross, a textbook example of how to make a celery salad out of the best ingredients. It's the world's best salad, but celery nonetheless.
The Corolla Cross fills the gap between the CHR and the RAV4. That's kinda logical. The CHR, even if we put aside its bold looks, has some limitations when it comes to practicality. I'm talking about the boot space and the rear seat. The RAV4, on the other hand, is perhaps too big and too expensive a car for some people. So, logically, there is room for one more crossover in the range. But a comparison with the regular Corolla also reveals interesting information. In terms of length, the Corolla Cross falls between the hatchback and the station wagon. It has wheelbase like the hatchback, unfortunately, which is shorter. It is a couple of centimeters wider and, of course, taller than the regular Corolla. The 16-centimeter ground clearance is the same as in the CHR, but the Corolla Cross is available with all-wheel drive, which disappeared from the CHR along with the 1.2-liter petrol engine. Not only does the Corolla Cross have optional all-wheel drive, it also has a 5th-generation hybrid powertrain, which I'll tell you more about how it works in a moment. It's worth it. For now, just the key information. What Toyota has packed into the Corolla Cross is 14% lighter and 14% more powerful than the 4th-generation hybrid powertrain. The battery cooling system has been optimized, resulting in longer battery life. On top of that, other components of the hybrid system have been lightened and made quieter. In short, it's supposed to be even better than it already is.
Whether it's better or not, we'll find out soon enough, and in the meanwhile, let's peek inside the boot. The capacity is 436 liters in front-wheel drive and 390 liters with all-wheel drive. In the all-wheel drive model, the rear wheels are driven by an electric motor. Now, answering the frequently asked question about a spare wheel, there is only a tire repair kit. Even if someone wanted to carry their own spare, I would advise against it, and I leave you with this cutaway without any more comments. But jokes aside, 390 liters is a decent number for a compact hatchback. Sorry, let's be serious here. It's okay in size, the shape is regular, and my tripod fits between the rear wheel arches, meaning there's about a meter of width in the narrowest point.
With the backrests folded, there is about 1340 liters. By some miracle, the Nissan Qashqai has a larger boot. But let's not kick Toyota by saying what's the boot size on the Skoda Karoq. Even the Suzuki SX4 S-Cross has a larger boot in 5-seat configuration, although when the seats are folded down, the Corolla Cross wins. The Corolla Cross also wins with one of the lowest loading lips in the class at just 72 centimeters. But all this is spoiled by the hump when the seats are folded. I couldn't believe it. I looked for the possibility of raising the floor to compensate for this hump, but no, that's how it went into production. There is nothing to do with the cargo cover either. At least there are some shopping bag hooks, and this strange design makes it possible to put something on the side and it won't fly around the boot. And there are separate buttons to shut the tailgate as well as to shut it and lock the car. And the tailgate closes with such speed that RAV4 owners should watch their fingers.
A quick housekeeping note, I'm here to make car reviews for you and not to chase the YouTube algorithm. I appreciate you liking, subscribing and putting on notifications, but that doesn't always do the trick. This is why I have a newsletter which I encourage you to subscribe to. That way you'll get notifications about new videos straight into your inbox. No spam, just notifications about new videos. Link in the description below, and now let's get on with the review. Space in the rear is okay-ish. It's a compact crossover. You won't dance back here, but it's reasonably comfortable, and the backrest angle has 2 levels of adjustment. I prefer the more upright position, but perhaps on a longer trip I could doze off. Yeah, that's my sleeping face apparently. Also, I tend to drool ever so slightly. Instead of door pockets, there are drink holders we've first seen in the CHR. The Corolla Cross also gets 2 USB-C ports in the rear, air vents, and an armrest with drink holders. You can't even dream of such luxuries in the CHR. In the front, at first glance, everything looks okay, but there's an issue or two which I shall address in a minute. Let's start with the positives though. The door pockets accommodate my 0.7 liter water bottle. Check. There are physical buttons over the knee. Check. And on the steering wheel. Check. And there are buttons and knobs for the AC. Check. And there is also, well, volume toggle switches. Check. There are also physical buttons for the steering wheel and the seat heating. You turn it on once in the fall and it stays on until the spring, and I like that. What I like less is the fact that instead of heating the entire steering wheel, Toyota does it Japanese style and only heats the sides. Lower down is a USB port. Here it's USB-A for some reason, and a smartphone shelf with a wireless charger. If you use Android Auto, your phone will be tethered with a cable, but iPhone users get wireless Apple CarPlay. The glove box is surprisingly spacious, and so is storage under the armrest, and this is no small salary. The cup holders are okay, but it would still be useful to have some place to put things away in plain sight. I know it's dangerous, but I'm living on the edge like that. The infotainment system, well, there's Android Auto. Incidentally, the directions from the Android Auto navigation are also displayed on the instrument cluster, and that's a plus. And Toyota has worked hard to get the instrument cluster just right. This is a new fully digital display. It's divided into 3 sections, 2 of which are for the speedometer and tachometer or eco gauge depending on your preferences, and the middle section for additional information. Additional information can also be displayed on the side speedometer and the tachometer. You can also change the section layout and the style of the display, and operating all this is actually quite simple and logical. Good job here, Toyota. And now the seats. Unusually, I'll start with the front passenger seat, which is unbearably bad. You sit as if on an uncomfortable stool, and after a few minutes of kind of squirming around, you get fed up. I drove all day with Anna in the right seat, and I couldn't figure out what she was moaning about. The driver's seat is not perfect, but it's good enough. We switched, and I lasted maybe 15 minutes riding shotgun. This is bad. Let me out. The driving position is okay, but for me, I'm 175 centimeters tall, the seat is too short, just like in the Ssangyong Corando. Also, I can't see writing on the overhead buttons. They are at such an angle that I would have to be several centimeters shorter to see what's on them. On the other hand, when Anna, who's 160 centimeters tall, sits behind the wheel, it turns out that the range of the seat and steering wheel adjustment and the position behind the wheel are just perfect for her. This is a car for short people, perhaps even for women, because it's mostly women who have trouble reaching the pedals or sitting too close to the steering wheel. That's not an issue here. The driver's seat is electrically adjustable but without memory function. The passenger seat is manual and it doesn't even have lumbar support adjustment. If you are a Toyota salesperson, don't let your customers sit in the front passenger seat. This Toyota Corolla Cross has all-wheel drive, so I'll start with my diagonal approach test. I'll drive up this small incline and stop halfway in such a way that wheels on the opposite sides have limited traction, and then I'll try to get moving again.
The Corolla Cross does not have an off-road mode. There are only Eco, Normal and Power modes. In Normal and Power mode, the car gets moving without a problem. Then I tried disabling ESP in Normal mode, and the car would not start. You can't see it in the video, but it's likely that the system wasn't braking the rear right wheel.
But with 16 centimeters ground clearance, the Corolla Cross is unlikely to encounter anything more challenging than a gravel road. For what it's worth, the all-wheel drive will help maintain traction on wet tarmac, and because the rear axle is driven by an electric motor, there is no significantly higher fuel consumption, as it is the case with cars with rear axle driven by a shaft.
Toyota promises 0 to 100 km per hour in 7.5 seconds. I managed 7.9 seconds, but it's not a pleasant experience, and that's not what the car is for. Let me explain. Toyota's 5th generation hybrid drivetrain is economical. In the city, 4.5 liters per 100 kilometers is absolutely realistic. Toyota claims just under 5.5 liters per 100 kilometers combined WLTP. I don't know how much I would have to drive on the motorways to use this much fuel.
Good fuel economy is easy to achieve as the new, more efficient batteries allow more driving in zero emissions mode, and since the car will be driven mostly around the city, Toyota decided to save on soundproofing, so much so that you try to drive gently so that the internal combustion engine runs as little as possible and at the lowest possible RPM. That's how you condition people to make better choices. The faster you drive, the louder it gets. There is noise from under the car, there is air noise, wind noise, and finally the engine sound. The Corolla Cross is just poorly soundproofed because it was probably assumed that, and I apologize if this sounds sexist, it's a kind of shopping trolley for one's wife.
I looked under the bonnet, and while there is a piece of soundproofing on the bonnet itself, the wheel arches are hollow and resonate. In addition, leaves fall into them, so in the autumn I advise you vacuum them regularly because something tells me that nobody else will when you leave the car in for service.
In the low and mid-rev range, the 197 horsepower Corolla Cross has some grunt similar to what we're used to with turbocharged engines, but there is no turbo here, just proven Japanese technology.
The Toyota Corolla Cross is also equipped with numerous safety and driver assistance systems. For example, at low speeds, the car will brake on its own when a pedestrian appears out of nowhere, or more likely you were texting. Or a system that will park the car automatically. It's called the Teammate Advanced Park Assist, and it does a pretty good job of detecting parking spaces and will park parallel or perpendicular on its own. In certain situations, you can even save a favorite parking spot, although I'll admit I haven't been able to do that. A message appears about the absence of some sort of marking. Perhaps it's about a clearly marked spot or maybe a road sign so that the car knows that the parking spot is legal. The Corolla Cross will reverse park into my gate by itself, even if it takes a long time. It coped better with this tiny curb than the VW ID.5. Link to this review in the video description and on the screen. In addition, there is a new 360 camera system. It's even easier to get an idea of the situation. The car also shows the view under itself, i.e., when maneuvering, the system stitches the view from the place already passed. And just a few years ago, this was a pretty big deal in Land Rovers.
Adaptive cruise control with lane keeping assist could work better. The Corolla Cross, it's just too jolty in my opinion. It's much better than in older Toyotas where you couldn't rely on keeping the car in lane at all, but if the corrections were smoother, it would be better. In traffic jams, it copes well enough, but for longer highway drives, you'd be better off with a RAV4.
Prices for the Toyota Corolla Cross start at €38,600 for, and this is the German spec, Corolla Cross Team Deutschland, front-wheel drive. Add $2,000 for all-wheel drive. This test car is the German spec again, Corolla Cross Lounge with all-wheel drive in white yawn pearl with panoramic roof that cannot be opened and sideboards which are useless, and it costs about €46,200. As I said in the beginning, there is a lot of competition in the compact crossover segment today. The Citroën C5 Aircross, the Kia Niro, Mazda CX-30, Mitsubishi Eclipse Cross, Nissan Qashqai, Opel Grandland X, Peugeot 3008, Renault Kadjar, Skoda Karoq, Ssangyong Corando, Subaru XV or Crosstrek I think it's called in the US, Suzuki SX4 S-Cross, the list goes on. You'll find reviews of most of these cars on my channel now or in the future, links in the description.
The Toyota Corolla Cross is designed to answer all the customers' needs, even if it bores them to death. What sets it apart from the competition is its hybrid drivetrain. However, the competitors offer more comfortable position behind the wheel, which is pretty important, more cargo space and better soundproofing. I'd wait for the 5th generation hybrid system to launch in other Toyota models. And how do you like the Toyota Corolla Cross? Let me know in the comment section below.
If you like my sarcastic, down-to-earth and possibly mildly amusing car reviews, join me every Friday at 3 p.m. Central European Time, and don't forget to subscribe and like this video as it helps me with the YouTube algorithm. Thanks for watching, and I will see you in the next one.